part of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. It's time for another episode of Cards Subject to Change. We're coming off a huge weekend for all of our booger eaters out there, as everyone has an event. We go from Bluegrass, Iowa to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and all points in between, discussing AEW, WWE, and SCW Pro.
Hello and welcome back to Cards Subject to Change, episode 54, with the longest name I could come up with. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read it on our while you're watching here. With me, as always, I'm the Wizard CZ, the Honorable Nick Bull. We are playing the tag team game today as Stripes is on assignment. Nick, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, CZ. How are you? You're looking great. You're sounding great. I hope you're feeling great after this weekend of wrestling that we had, this monumental weekend of wrestling we had.
Absolutely. This whole last week from a week ago yesterday all the way up until today has been fantastic. I got to check something off the bucket list, got to see Mr. Chris Jericho and Fozzy perform last Monday, and then that just rolled right into this weekend. I know that's a few days between, but a lot of great wrestling to talk about, man. We got a hell of a show here today.
Well,
we're gonna throw the
format
out the window for sure.
It was a hell of a week for you, and of course, Stripes, who's away on assignment. You guys got to go to the Rust Belt and partake in the Fozzy concert. I'm kind of glad Angle's not here tonight. We can save that Fozzy talk for another time. You guys can do that maybe on the next episode or so, because I want to get both your guys' viewpoints on that and talk about high points, low points of the concert. But man, we can talk about this weekend all we want, but we really need to get started on it. A big weekend. If you love wrestling, there was an ample amount of it, a cornucopia, if you will. I know we're not in the harvest Thanksgiving season, but I'm going to talk about cornucopia. When it came to wrestling this past weekend. You had it on the local indie front. If you wanted to go to Bluegrass and take in an SCW Pro show, you could have watched WWE over in Saudi Arabia, could have watched AEW in Vegas. The list goes on and on. The options were there. Wizard, where should we jump back into first?
Oh, man, that is a great question, because Nick and I decided off air we're going to just throw the format out the window, and we're just going to talk about feelings, emotions, and what on highlights and low points of the whole weekend. So bear with us. We're going to jump around. But I think we need to start with the best opener of the weekend of any show, and that happens to be in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, CZ, and I'm glad you led off with this, because my first question is, should this have been the opener, or should this have been the show closer? I've heard both sides of it. I'm going to present you mine, and I can't wait to hear yours. I think this should have been the main event. They wanted to set this World Heavyweight Championship apart from the other two that Roman have, but instead it went on first. There's a saying out there, if you're not going on last, you go on first. And I would have liked to have seen it in the main event, but I understand why it wasn't in the main event with the Bloodline story going on. But then again, your World Heavyweight Championship is taking a back seat because of the Bloodline. So you're trying not to have this participation title, but when it gets kicked from the main event for a tag, I don't know. Listen. It was in the opener. It set the tone, and it really set the stage for the crowd in what turned out to be another hell of a performance, a hell of a show from WWE. Right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever your viewpoints are on the Saudi shows, this was a good one, and the opener with Rollins and Styles kicked ass and got the show going.
And just to answer your question there, I can see both sides of this. I want to shout out to friend of the podcast, Merrick Brave. Saturday, I was scrolling through Twitter at some point while I was working. I did not get to see the show live, but Merrick threw out on Twitter. Basically, I don't remember the exact tweet, but he said that opening the show is not a bad thing. It is actually an honor to be the quote unquote curtain jerker. That's often comes off as a derogatory term, but uh, it's actually you're setting the tone for the whole show, like you said. And honestly, I think this set the pace for the whole weekend, with few exceptions. Should it have been the main event? Yeah, I can make an argument for that. But at the same time, the Bloodline story is still the hottest thing in wrestling right now. You can't argue that.
Nope, you can't argue that. It is the hottest thing going in wrestling right now. So I understand why some people could be upset. World Heavyweight Championship wasn't the main event, but you guys seen why it was there. It was in the opener, and Rollins and Styles. I mean, raise your hand if you could watch those guys wrestle every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Those guys really complement each other really well. Both, the best of their time period that they've been around. Styles and Rollins have both held world championships. They both similar path, albeit Rollins never ended up in Impact, but similar path for the Indies. They crossed paths here in the Quad Cities. They crossed paths here in Muscatine. They were in Ring of Honor together. So they kind of have a similar path. So to see these two battle it out in Jeddah to crown a new world heavyweight champion is pretty cool. But I'm hearing that this new world heavyweight championship, CZ, is not taking on the lineage of the former,
which I think is a mistake. To an extent, I can understand why they're doing that, but yeah, I think that's a mistake. I think you introduce a world heavyweight championship, it's got to have the lineage of WCW's and before history there, because it's a different belt. It's the design is similar but different, but you're throwing away all the history of the Ric Flairs, the Dusty Rhodes, etc., and so on, but attached to that lineage.
There were also rumbling seas. Let me jump on you real quick before you make another point, because this may be. There were rumblings that storyline down the road, it could pick up the lineage of the former world heavyweight title. So that remains to be seen. But on the story of Rollins and Styles, opening match, new champion, I love it. Rollins' ring gear entrance. Tell me he's not over in Saudi Arabia, huh?
Oh, I think he's over everywhere he goes.
I hear what it is. No, really. I mean, it was a really cool scene. I half expected in the back of my mind for Triple H to do something to Seth when he came out there and shook his hand and bestowed upon him the new world heavyweight title, but he didn't. That was a cool act. That's I think. If anybody wants to know who Triple H's guy is, it's Seth Rollins, everybody. And there's no further testament than what we saw there at Afternoon of Champions on Saturday.
Here's what I loved about Triple H presenting that title. That was an amazing throwback to when Rollins won the NXT championship, the first ever NXT champion. He's now the first ever World Heavyweight Champion, WWE World Heavyweight Champion. We can go back to when he faced Finn Balor for the Universal title and scratch our heads, ask ourselves, was that a mistake that he wasn't the first ever, since this has been a tradition? But at the same time, you got to give Finn Balor his due, who was an amazing wrestler in his own right.
Finn Balor is an amazing wrestler, CZ, and we only say that now, knowing hindsight, that Balor got injured and had to forfeit it the next night. Now, if Balor went on and had a great long reign, we never would have said that, but revisionist history tells us, oh man, he got injured, had to forfeit it the next night. Oh, they should have went the other way. Injuries happen, we know that, but this time I think they made not only the right decision for our Regency bias, but I think the right decision in having Rollins on there every Monday night. He's the biggest star every Monday night, having the title on there every Monday night, having it visual, having him fight for it every Monday night will just boost it, and before long, it's going to have a little lineage of its own. That's a tongue twister there.
Absolutely. Man. Let me ask your opinion on something. We're talking about championships here. You mentioned Roman Reigns, the Bloodline storyline. That obviously had to continue, and that I can see why they made it the main event because, like we said just a little bit ago, it's the hottest thing in wrestling. But was it a mistake for Roman to not defend his title on this show? The reason I ask that, when they first changed this event from King and Queen of the Ring to Night of Champions, the tagline was initially all championships defended.
Yep, it was, but I can see this one of two ways. Like, you can argue the match placement for Rollins and Styles. I'll argue this. They didn't have Roman defend the belts on the show because they wanted that world heavyweight title to be singular. I don't know. Who would you have him defend it against?
I get that. I wanted to.
It did okay. Well, the U.S. title wasn't defended.
Tough question.
The U.S. title wasn't defended. Arguably, Austin Theory, who's one of the youngest, hottest stars in the company. I think they left some people back just in case travel issues and something happened. Right? You can't throw all your eggs into one basket. There's been travel issues before. Not just Saudi related, but there's been travel issues before, CZ, where people didn't get back, whether it be like weather due to weather, flights. So they had to keep some people back. So no, it did not bother me that Roman did not defend this belt on this show because he was still a part of one of the matches. Now, had he not been part of that tag match and had he wasn't on the show, period, you'd be hearing me say something completely different. But it did not bother me that he did not defend the belt on the show.
And that's fair. I think that's correct, and I think it was the right decision to focus on the World Heavyweight Championship. Would I have loved to see that as the main event? Absolutely. But let's jump right into the main event next. I mean, a lot of story going on with the Bloodline. The build up to this, the Usos lost their championship match at WrestleMania to KO and Sammy.
Yep.
Finally got addressed by Roman a couple weeks ago because Roman took a little bit of time off. You see the cracks starting to form as we build to the Saudi show, to Night of Champions in the Bloodline. Jimmy refusing to apologize, even laughing at Roman, which ultimately led to the end of the match. And the turnout there, Roman and Solo did not win the tag team champions. And you got to thank Jimmy Uso for that.
The Usos make a late match appearance, which, by the way, I want to talk about Sammy's entrance and intro to this match here after this. But they make their presence felt late in the match. And as they are taking on KO and Sammy, I'm talking about the Usos, Roman looks to one of the Usos. I can't tell you Jimmy or Jay, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" Mm-hmm. So that they were totally acting on their own accord. That wasn't something that was part of the plan or devised by the tribal chief. And then I think when they found out they weren't wanted there, it was all but over, and Jimmy was the one who did it, and he's yelling at Jay, "You should have done this a long time ago. I'm doing what you should have done." So this is interesting.
Yep.
I like this, man. Just when you think, oh man, it's going to end, it keeps going. Now listen, they can keep this thing going, CZ, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's good like it has been, man. It keeps giving and giving. I think there's going to be an interesting twist. I don't know, maybe fantasy booking here. I was on Twitter after that happened, that all went down, and Rikishi is commenting on things. Rikishi, as you know, is the father of Jay and Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, and kind of bemoaning the acts of his boys and saying that this isn't right. It ain't going down like this. So on SmackDown this coming week, when Roman is celebrating the whole 1,000 days as champion, I wonder if that's the next wrinkle we see, if we see a Rikishi Fatu show up and do a little father-son disciplining, if you will.
If you will. Yeah, that would be a very interesting twist to the whole storyline. I would love to see that. I think Rikishi has always been a fan favorite. He's awesome. Siding with Roman would be a twist to his previous character, but I think it fits. I'd love to see that happen. So,
yeah, I think this is far from over. I mean, I think they've maybe teased for Money in the Bank. The Usos versus Roman and Solo. I think maybe that's on the plate for Money in the Bank, which makes sense. And then you got Roman probably in the building in case there's a cash in. You probably have Seth in the building too in case there's a cash in. So, This one we think things can't get any better. They just do. And wrestling's really rolling right now. And if you can't find something out there to enjoy, whether it's WWE, AEW, GCW, Impact, something independent and local, man, you're not looking in the right places because it is all over.
Speaking of Impact, I want to do a little sidebar. You brought up Impact. They announced a match for their next pay-per-view that's called the 841 match.
Yeah, I saw that.
Interesting concept. Did you see that?
I did see that concept. I like new concepts, and it seems like it's legit and it could work.
Yeah,
I
can see that. It's an 8-man tag. The winners of the 8-man tag then go on to a fatal 4-way, and then the winner of the fatal 4-way becomes the number 1 contender for the Impact title. And I know that's getting off topic, but
the only thing
I wanted to.
The only thing where I can see that could run into problems, CZ, and I know it's the first time, so I don't want to sit here and tear it apart, is Team A 4 faces against Team B 4 heels, or are the heels and faces mixed in together? So it's just wrestlers 1, 2, 3, and 4 against 5, 6, 7, and 8. I don't know how they pick the teams, but I like that concept. It's a new concept. I haven't seen it or heard of it before, so I'm willing to give it a try.
Same here. And I'm sorry, if you're a frequent listener to the Card Subject to Change podcast, we go off on tangents all the time. Nick brought up Impact. I had to bring that up because I thought it was an interesting announcement today from that side of things.
Yeah,
Nick, I know you wanted to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. No, I saw that announcement too, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to write that whole thing down.
Nick, I know you wanted to talk about Sammy and his entrance and intro to the main event of Night of Champions, Afternoon of Champions.
Yeah.
I thought that was very well done.
Very, very well done. Knowing the background, that I don't know if everybody knows the background, but the background being, last year, this would not have been possible for Sami Zayn to be a part of Night of Champions. But the countries of Saudi Arabia and Syria have renewed peace talks and opened up relations to where he can be over there and it's not in imminent danger. So I think this was a very important journey for him, not only career, but I also think for him spiritually. He was able to visit some holy places there in Saudi Arabia, and then for him to come out in the native gown that he wore and did the ring intro in Arabic. The crowd went nuts for that, and I thought that was a really good touch. You could tell it really meant a lot to Sammy. And hey, this guy was fighting Johnny Knoxville and getting trapped in like human mouse traps A little over a year ago, man. Look at him. I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him now. And hey, and props, man. I love the fact that last two WWE pay-per-views, the tag team titles have closed out the show. If you want to count, you separate your WrestleMania nights. So, that was
you being a big tag team.
You're
guy,
absolutely
of course,
right. It's good to see that tag team wrestling matters again in the WWE. I mean, it's a welcome sight. I mean, it can be done when done right and when cared for. And I'm glad you got these four guys in there battling for the belts. And then, yeah, I love it. I don't know what's next for Sammy and KO. I don't think everything's going to be roses and flowers for them forever. At some point, they'll have an impasse. But they come out of Night of Champions still your WWE undisputed tag team champs. Other than the arrangement of the booking, I mean, you could have put this match here, that match there. I thought it was a really well done show. I know there was a point maybe people brought up and we have not heard yet, but the SmackDown Women's title match between SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley of the Judgment Day against Natalya lasted a whole 90 seconds. I have not heard completely, CZ, if that was injury or if that was, hey, you guys don't have much time. Go out there and get it done. I don't know. I have not heard, but it was very awkward during the pay-per-view. I do know that much.
So let's touch down on the women's titles here in WWE real quick.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you feel that the Raw Women's Champion is on SmackDown and the SmackDown Women's Champion is on Raw?
Yeah, the title switch has got to be coming up imminently, right? I think they were maybe waiting to see what happened after this pay-per-view. We've got that title change between Bianca Belair's historic Raw title run is over. Thanks to Asuka and her treachery and using the mist in a way we haven't seen used in quite some time or maybe ever. They'll have the switch off. They'll have the switch off, right? I mean,
you got to think they will.
I mean, it's got to happen at one of these things. Maybe by Money in the Bank. Maybe by Money in the Bank something happens. Maybe we're worried about this, and it's much ado about nothing because there's going to be a cash in, and boom, the title's on the show it needs. But yeah, you raise a very good point. We talk about, we don't know if it's injury or if it was time constraints, but the other women's title match, the Raw women's title match, where we saw the EST of the CSTC. No, I was not in Jeddah. Saw Bianca Belair versus Asuka in a rematch from WrestleMania.
This was a fun match, I thought.
Yes, I enjoyed this match.
Like you said, we saw the mist used in a unique way. Never seen that where she had her fingers taped. I know the commentators were making references to Muda.
Yes. With
the fingers taped and raking the eyes with the mist on the fingers.
Yep.
Very good ending to this match. I thought Asuka needed this win. Definitely deserves to have the championship right now. I think they pulled the trigger a little too late, in all honesty. Should have done it at Mania, but that's just me. That's armchair booking right there. No, the match was fun though. Overall, it was great. Yeah, the women actually put on, other than the Rhea Ripley match with Natty, the women actually put on a good show in Saudi this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, can't argue with their performance for sure. I would have liked to have seen Asuka win at WrestleMania, but I think they wanted to get Bianca over that year reign, and rightfully so. She did a good job with it. I would like to see a heel Bianca here soon, whether it's how she goes about and doesn't get her rematch, or it's, she's sick and tired of Asuka getting away with this miss thing. I want to see the other side of Bianca. I think we as fans have seen her be the goody two-shoe face for too long, and I think she's fully capable of doing the opposite. And I think that's where she can take her character to the next level, and she wouldn't need that belt especially. So I think like what Bailey's done with Damage Control, I think Bianca could do that and be even a little more sinister, since she was,
if I remember,
the baby face.
if I remember correctly, wasn't she a heel in NXT for a while?
She was for a while, but she was more face than a heel. She was heel for a little bit, then she went to being a face once they realized, what they had.
Because I just remember in NXT the hair whipping. For her heel gimmick, that was a big thing. Wasn't a big fan of it, but
right.
I guess the long hair, that was how they were putting her over as a heel. It worked for her. But coming off of that Bianca Belair out of NXT, I was never a big fan of hers until recently. She had to grow on me.
Yeah, she grew on me, and she had some really good matches. Had a string of matches there with Becky, even though Becky got the first one on her. Their match at SummerSlam I really enjoyed. Bianca had a great reign. I think it's time to give her a break, have her come back, maybe give a little edge to her character. She's a little too bubblegummy cookie cutter for right now, but you give her a little edge, and she'll be able to take that and run with it and become a new version of Bianca. I think they'll be better off when it's all said and done. I got a couple closing thoughts. Let
me spin something.
Go ahead.
Let me spin something for you, Nick. You mentioned wanting to see Bianca as a heel. Yep. What if we did this? What if we paired her with her husband, had Montez turn on Angelo Dawkins, and have them as a team, as a husband and wife heel team?
It wouldn't bother me in the slightest. I think it'd probably be good. I thought they would have had the Montez Angelo turn by now. But I think I thought they would have had it reversed. I thought they would have had Montez be the face and Angelo be the heel. But it might work better the opposite. I don't know. Everybody knows they're a couple. I don't know how much they want to capitalize on that. I don't know what WWE wants to do with that. But it wouldn't bother me in the slightest. It's time, I think, for Montez Ford.
I think it'd be a fun story to tell.
Oh, I think it would too. I think Bianca's got to get this little edge to her and then have it happen. But it would be an interesting wrinkle. I mean, everybody's been calling for the Street Profits breakup for how long? I mean, it's just a matter of time, right? So I could see it coinciding with Bianca's turn, and I could see it working too. I really could.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
A couple closing thoughts I have. Afternoon of Champions.
That's just what I was going to say.
I thought Mustafa Ali and Gunther was a good match with the time that they had. It was hard hitting, and I thought it was pretty enjoyable. They're building Gunther to be this monster Intercontinental Champion. He is 100 days away, CZ, from topping the Honky Tonk Man's legendary mark. And I looked at that. That is September 7th. So that'd be through SummerSlam, probably the pay-per-view after SummerSlam. But I anticipate Gunther breaking that record.
Well,
I don't think they're going to get this far into it and have him lose it. Once it's this close, he's gonna break Honky Tonk Man's record.
And that seems to be the trend in WWE. They want these record-setting runs. I mean, look at Roman, look at Bianca. They have both record setters now. Why not do it with Gunther? I got a lot of love for the Honky Tonk Man, but it's time for someone else to take over at the top of the list there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's time. And Gunther's proven it. He's gone through a murderer's row of contenders and probably a few more before it culminates to where he breaks Honky Tonk Man's record. But I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. And hey, Cody Brock, come on. What'd you think about it? We kind of anticipated going to be a trilogy. You're going to get 3 matches out of this, CZ. You might get 4, but you're going to get another one out of this.
Yeah. Not surprised. What did surprise me was, What did surprise me was Cody was kind of the heel in this match at some points, using the cast to his advantage.
Yeah, this was it was kind of this wasn't the Lex Luger titanium plate in the arm, not using it wrong. Like Cody's just blatantly using the cast, but once he found out that it didn't hurt him and it did damage to Brock, look, I looked at this match knowing that there's going to be another one. So whatever they did, it didn't really matter to me. I just knew Brock was going to get one back since Cody, quote unquote, pulled a fast one in the first one. So Brock was going to win at some point. Right. They did it the right way by Cody, quote unquote, passing out. So both guys look strong. It's just, are they going to do match 3 at Money in the Bank, or are they going to save that for SummerSlam? I hope they do it at Money in the Bank. I would love to see a Gunther Brock Lesnar match at SummerSlam. I don't think it'll happen, but one can hope and wish. I just hope that if they're going to, do part 3 of Brock and Cody, let's do it at Money in the Bank, and let's not put it off to SummerSlam.
I agree. Just take care of it right away. Make it happen. Don't sit on it, because when you sit on a feud like that, it tends to make the feud stale. Just like if you continue a feud past its prime.
Oh no, I totally get where you're coming from. They got to strike while it's hot, but at the same time, you don't want it to cool off too much. I think Money in the Bank just seems to be like the natural progression for it. They're not going to do the third one on TV, obviously. So Money in the Bank just seems to be the obvious choice. That's also in England. I don't know how much they want. They probably, that's a big show with both Money in the Bank, matches on top of, Seth probably defending as well. So, yeah, I would think that would probably be where it's going to add. If you look at the timeline of things, that Money in the Bank would be the time for match 3 of Brock and Cody.
I agree. I think that's the right time to pull the trigger, and I hope they agree with us. Where do we want to go next?
Unless you have anything more on Afternoon of Champions, I think we should skip to Double or Nothing.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. I was just wondering where you wanted to go.
Yeah, we're going to skip to Double or Nothing because I want to end the show on a positive note.
I agree. I completely agree. I know. So, thing with Double or Nothing, you and I have completely different environments. We were talking about that off air. You were at your buddy's house, low-key environment, not a lot of crowd noise. Talk about, because I was at Lopez here in the Quad Cities with a bunch of wrestling friends, friends of the podcast. Tim Regal, Kai McKenna was there, Alex McCarthy, just to drop a few.
Name drop.
But it was completely different than what you were experiencing, because they were popping. It was loud. Everybody who was watching the show was hitting the high spots when they needed to. Tell us about your experience with Double or Nothing.
Okay, first and foremost, I want the audience to see before I've got an AEW shirt on. Look, I do like AEW. Okay, I don't hate them, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought this might have been possibly their worst pay-per-view. Since they've done pay-per-views, there were some good things on this show. Don't get me wrong, but from a listener standpoint or viewer standpoint at home, that crowd was absolutely dead. I've since learned that they weren't dead. It's just how it came across on TV, but it did not come across as if they were interested in the show. It seemed like they were interested in the Orange Cassidy match. After that, they kind of went asleep until Karen Jarrett smashed referee Aubrey Edwards in the head with a guitar. They popped for that. They popped for Wardlow's Swanton. But it just seems so hard to read the crowd. Now, number 2, matches, the match build to me, I'll throw this out there. I said this when All In got announced, and then when All Out got announced, and then when the possibility of Punk coming back got announced at Collision. This pay-per-view was just filler to get to those next shows. That's how I kind of looked at this card. This card had some good matches, but most of these matches you could have got away with by putting on a Dynamite, in my opinion. The opening match with Cassidy was okay. The 21-person Battle Royal, entertaining. Orange Cassidy is doing wonders for that company and that international belt, by the way. I love what Orange Cassidy's doing. Adam Cole, Chris Jericho, to me, I know you're a Jericho mark, and he went to Fozzy last week, but this match just lacked to me. It lacked. It was slow. It just seemed like the audience wasn't connected with these two and what they were trying to tell. I'll take my biasy hat off, but I thought the tag team.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about the Jericho Adam Cole match. I think it was a bit lackluster, but why the hell was Sabu there? Why?
I know why he was there, to get a pop. I don't know. That should have been explained when he came back on Wednesday night, I think is when they brought him back in. Okay. I mean, I get it. Tony's a fan. He wants to get these guys on and get them a good pop in front of an audience, get them a payday. That's great. But from a continuity storyline standpoint, like, you're a bigger Jericho fan than me. When did Jericho ever really screw over Sabu, or Sabu would have remembered it and come back X amount of years later?
Nothing I can think of.
I mean, I can't think of Jericho.
Least with
I can't think of Jericho and Sabu having anything in WWE. They might have crossed paths in 94, 95, if you want to go back that far for storyline, but that's like inside baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looked good. Trust me.
The only place I can think of them crossing paths would be ECW, because Jericho had a brief stint in ECW, but I wasn't the biggest ECW fan. I didn't watch it. Watch much of it here. I don't know. Did they cross paths?
They may have crossed paths. They may have crossed paths in WCW. Sabu had a brief run there, but if anything ever happened, CZ, we don't know it. It's not public.
Yeah.
We don't know it. So I guess they couldn't bring back Bobby Fish for the stuff he said or whatever. They needed somebody. I will say this: Sabu has had his demons and he has struggled, but I thought he looked really good the other night in the capacity he was. I thought he looked really good for 58 years old. It's best he's looked in quite some time. So, yeah, why is he here?
I won't argue that.
I get it. Why is he here? But I see why. I'm not trying to blaze through the card or anything, but just the crowd's reactions on things. FTR and Jarrett and Lethal. Jarrett and Lethal are both great. It's like, why are they a tag team? Let's get some tag
That doesn't make sense to me.
I love both those guys. And if they're a tag team, I guess I'll love them because I know they're going to put on a good match. And I thought them and FTR put on a good match. I thought it was probably the best match up until your last two, if you want to consider them great. They were entertaining, don't get me wrong. But now that we have FTR retaining and probably done with this Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett angle, and Mark Briscoe sees that those guys were just using them or whatever, I don't know. Interested to see what's next for FTR. Aussie Open signed with All Elite, so that's going to be great when they get healthy. And man, hopefully they're battling with FTR over at All In or at Forbidden Door or at All Out. But let's start building this tag division back up. I know the Guns. The one I think Austin Gunn is injured right now, so that's a team that doesn't really have. That's a team that's on the shelf right now. I just hope we can get some tag teams going and get this tag division going back to where it should be.
I can agree with that. I definitely can. The only other thing I can think of, I know it's eventually going to happen, but there's going to be you got to think there's going to be another match between FTR and the Bucks at some point. But You have to imagine that the Elite and the BCC are not done with their rivalry.
No, definitely not. And we can talk about that match if you want to. The Anarchy in the Arena went on as the main event, and that was the team of the Elite, which is Matt and Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page against the Blackpool Combat Club of Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, ROH World Champion Claudio Castagnoli, and Yuta Wheeler. Wheeler Yuta. Excuse me. He does not have a title. He does not have a title right now. I thought he had a Ring of Honor belt, but he does not.
Nope, he used to, but he lost it back WrestleMania weekend.
I'm going to tell you something. Some people are crapping all over this. Some people are loving all over it. For what it was, it is what it was. It is what it is.
It was a spectacle. Let's just call it what it is.
It was a spectacle.
A spectacle match.
They put on a show. I was entertained, but it was almost like, what else can we do to make this look ridiculous? There was no consideration of jumping the shark. I'll just put it to you this way. I think there's 8 guys in that match that don't need to be in a match like this. And I don't know. I don't know. You got some pretty good wrestlers in this match out there just doing crap.
Yeah, it's entertaining. A lot of great names.
To an aspect, but it's also, I don't know. And then you go back to back like 30-minute matches where I thought at first I didn't like the 4 Pillars match after watching, and I got to thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? They did some interesting things in there. It's not their fault. They did the best with what they had. Okay?
Yeah.
You can say that about the 4-way match. They did the best with what they had. You cannot say that about Anarchy in the Arena because they did not do the best with what they had. They had 8 of the best, 3 or 4 of the best wrestlers in the world of those 8, and they didn't do the best they could.
Right.
In my opinion, I know it's a spectacle. I was not expecting a Matt Classic. I know what I'm getting with that, but I just felt that the 4 Pillars match was beyond expectations, even though I doubted, I guess, for a little bit if MJF was going to retain. But coming out of this, the 4-way match, I don't want to sound like a complete jerk because I enjoyed it. I never thought MJF was going to lose. But him retaining, I think Sammy looks better coming out of this feud. Also announcing you're having a baby is always a good, face move.
Yeah.
I think Jungle Boy is I'm worried about him after this feud. I think he's just going to disappear into irrelevancy. And then Darby, you never know where Darby is. He wants to climb Mount Everest in a year. Is he going to be around in a year? So, did this feud make the other guys better? I don't know. But those 4 guys did the best they could with what they had. And I thought that should have been the main event of Double or Nothing myself. Just an observation, my opinion.
I can agree with that.
I
can completely agree with that.
What's your assessment of that last hour of Double or Nothing? And Tony Khan, I know there's probably no way you're listening to this, but every pay-per-view does not have to be 4 hours long. It doesn't have to be.
No, this was...
You can get it done in 3 hours.
This was an 11-match card. If you're counting the pre-show, this was an 11-match card. Pre-show, of course, had the Hardys with Hook against Ethan Page and the Guns. Don't need to talk about that. It was on the pre-show for a reason. But even with that match being on the pre-show, you have 10 matches on the main card, and 3 of them at least were 20 minutes or longer. I mean, I know, Tony, I know you're hopped up on the booger sugar and you never blink, but we don't need that much entertainment some of it is not entertaining.
Yeah, there's got to be an internal voice somewhere that's saying, hey, this match is, we got to cut some time off of here. I think there's too much creative expression. You know what I mean? There needs to be, the allure of AEW is being able to kind of go off script and do your own thing a little bit, all of course with what's going on with the story. But I think sometimes some liberties are taken with time. But we haven't even talked about some. I can't believe we haven't even talked about the biggest thing that kind of pissed me off about this card the most.
Okay.
Jade Cargill, Chris Statlander. What the freak was that?
Well,
can I make a comparison for you?
Go ahead.
It's like Goldberg losing to Scott Norton.
Scott Flash Norton ending the streak. Oh man, that would have.
Think about it.
Here's the thing. Here's my opinion. No, I see where you're coming from.
No,
I'm
all ears.
Chris
I'm all ears.
Statlander,
I want to hear what you have to say.
Chris Statlander's been gone for a while. Second injury in 3 years.
Yep.
She's done with Best Friends. She's dropped the whole Space Girl gimmick or whatever the hell that was. This was a big return in the minds of people putting together the show at AEW. And what bigger way to give her a return than to have her dethrone the 60-0 champion on the show? I mean, do I agree with it? No.
Well, their minds need to be examined. Their minds need to be examined because I'll tell you right now. Write me down 10 women's wrestlers in AEW, and you wouldn't even put down Chris Statlander before this weekend.
Well, that's fair.
And now you're going to have her.
I knew who she was.
You knew who she was because you're a booger eater just like me. I know who she is. Okay, but her coming back, I don't think merits beating a 60-0. Somebody you've been building for over a year. It's all political bullshit. You ready? They took the belt off her. Okay. They took the TBS title off her because TBS is Dynamite. Okay.
Yeah.
Jade has been very vocal pro CM Punk, so she's going to be over on Collision. And I think they'll divide the belts by the shows. I think your world heavyweight champion will be between both shows. Okay. Your trios, your TBS women's, and your international will be on Dynamite.
Okay.
On Collision, you'll have the tag titles, you'll have the women's title, and you'll have the TNT title because it's on TNT.
Okay. That's a very valid point. I can see that.
Think they're doing that to take the belt off her. I think they were hoping to catch a pop with Chris Statlander, and no disrespect to Chris Statlander. But the bear shits in the woods and no one's around to smell it or hear it. Did it happen? I'm sorry. I was blown away. I was blown away. That's how they were going to do Jade. Unbelievable.
It's like, you made the comparison with Goldberg. I'll make the comparison with The Undertaker. It's like bringing Giant Gonzalez back when Undertaker is 20-0 and having him end the WrestleMania streak.
I mean, I got nothing against her, but I don't know. I don't know. Would not have been my choice of the person to end Jade's streak. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I honestly thought it was going to be Taya Valkyrie because they hyped her up so much. And then
and now
here
look,
comes Chris Statlander. I've been gone.
How many matches has Taya Valkyrie had in the company?
4 or 5, I think.
She's done. You've pretty much jobbed her out.
You definitely have.
By bringing back
Let me ask you.
The alien girl. of the Andromeda Galaxy.
Ugh. Oh, Lord.
Dude,
Let me ask you this. Let's get off.
If I'm Jade Cargill, that contract runs out. I'm calling Triple H up. That's just my opinion. What was that? Go ahead.
I agree. I was just gonna ask you, and I think you're on a bit of a delay with me here, Nick. But
yeah, no problem.
What did you think of Wardlow channeling his inner Jeff Hardy?
Who am I to say what guys can do and what guys can't do? He can do it. It looks really good when he does it. But does he need to do it? And how long can he do it?
Here's the thing. I like Wardlow a lot. I think he's got a lot of promise. I see him as a future world champion. Hopefully, while MJF is still holding the title, we go back and circle that feud again. But he is a big man who isn't the kind of big man like you look at a Bam Bam Bigelow or even today's Bronson Reed. He doesn't need to be doing that stuff. He is a big, brawling brute. That is what he needs to be. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it looked cool, and it got a response, and he's done it. It's not like he hasn't done it before. Like, okay, off the ladder was different, but he does them in the match off the top ropes. So it is part of his arsenal, but I think it's something that over the next couple of years and as time wanes on, like somebody's got to get in his ear, like, hey, bud, you want to last in this business. Tone it down maybe just a little bit, kind of. But who am I to say? I'm just a wrestling fan, but hey, if you can do it, I guess do it. But man, I think somebody would get in his ear and want to make him protect himself as much as he can. I can't believe I wrote this down. I'm glad you brought this up. We haven't even talked about the elephant in the room with Double or Nothing. And that is Arn Anderson biting off. Would that be a claw? What would that be of Luchasaurus? I'm telling you what right now. Listen to me. I'm 43 years old. I don't know who they're trying to fool with this campy bullshit.
Right?
How campy was that?
Who thought that was a good idea? Yeah, I want to know. Was this Tony Khan? Was it? I don't know any of the producers.
Yes. Think about this. Hey, Arn, you're going to go down there and bite his finger off. Okay. All right, I'm with you. I think people forgot to tell Luchasaurus after his thumb got bit off, you don't want to show the world the prosthetic. Hey, everybody, look, it's not real. He did not do a good job of covering it up. Oh, man. I was just like, are you kidding me? But it was kind of a precursor.
Who's more to blame?
Who are to blame?
Who's more to blame for this? The guy who told Arn, "Hey, you're going to go bite somebody's thumb off," or Arn for saying, "Okay, I'm going to go do it."
I'm going to put Arn no matter what, because Arn's at the point of his career where he could be like, "I'm not doing that shit. That sounds stupid."
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Okay, the biting off the thumb thing, I can understand. Just hear me out. I can understand a little bit. But then when Arn looks like he ate a bowl of grapes and he just got like blood all everywhere like this, I'm sorry. And then Luchasaurus is showing the prosthetic off. Man, it was bad.
Yeah.
But listen. AEW still put on a decent pay-per-view. It wasn't their best pay-per-view by any means. But the Four Pillars match delivered more than it should have. Anarchy in the arena is a spectacle. You if you like wrestling and you like spectacles and train wrecks, I encourage you. There was a good tag match on this card. It just, the card seemed to be lacking the oomph. But I don't think we have to worry. as wrestling fans. I don't think AEW loyalists out there have to worry. You got Forbidden Door on the horizon. You've got All In. You've got All Out. Everything's going to be fine. AEW got through this Double or Nothing span. That's what they wanted to get through to get to these bigger shows. And we as wrestling fans are here to reap the benefits.
And I mean, let me ask you, AEW on this show in particular, to me, just didn't seem to have the star power that some of its other shows. Yeah, you've got the Elite, particularly Kenny Omega. You've got the Blackpool Combat Club. All of those wrestlers are fantastic. MJF is their star right now with the title, but did it really have the star power that other pay-per-views they have put on had in the past? Did they really? Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe star power isn't the word that I'm looking for.
Right.
Maybe
it lacked oomph. You're not wrong for saying that. But I think with those 3 shows coming up, we could look back at this show and be like, they had bigger fish to fry at the time. They just got that show put together. And it's kind of what it felt like, but still, I was entertained. There was some good stuff. I really like what they're doing with Orange Cassidy. I don't know where that's going to go with the International Championship, but that's one of the positive things I liked off the card the other night. And of course, my guys FTR retaining. Hey, put your fantasy booking cap on for a second here, Booger Eater. Do that Impact 841, but book the main event from Double or Nothing.
Ooh. So I'll be honest with you. If I'm, they've got 2 established 4-person teams that any one of them, with the exception of maybe the Bucks, because they're not really single stars, but any one of them could main event a pay-per-view, in my opinion. Sure. Claudio, John Moxley, Bryan Danielson, maybe not Wheeler Yuta, but okay, so we've got, 5 out of 8 people that could main event a pay-per-view? Throw those 2 teams together, have them fight it out in the 8-man. I would honestly book the BCC over the Elite in that instance. From there.
So CZ, you're booking this straight up BCC versus Elite. You're not going to intermingle the teams at all?
No, I think that's how it should be. I mean, can we go through the entire AEW roster and pick 8 random people? Sure.
But for BCC Elite,
where things stand in AEW,
right.
That's where things stand right now with AEW. Is you've got 2 established teams that this match would work for. And honestly, looking at star power alone, I put the BCC over the Elite. It's a close margin because I really would like to see Kenny Omega back in the title picture. I could give 2 shits about Hangman Adam Page. But if I'm booking the match, BCC comes out ahead. And from there, honestly, it'd be a toss-up between Danielson and Mox for me.
So we'd have like that. We would probably end up with that Mox. It'd come down to Mox and Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson again, which we've seen before, but this would add more layers to their story. I don't know. I am interested. Yeah. You'll have to remind me when this Impact match is on because I like new match concepts. If you're listening live or if you're listening later, hit us up on our social media at CSTC Podcast on our social media platforms. Let us know some different new or match stipulations you would like to see thrown out there. We're talking about this one from Impact, this 841. If you're unfamiliar about it, we did talk about it earlier, so now you have to go back and listen to it. We're not just going to give it away right here, but you're glad you're listening. Download us wherever you can, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast and your podcasting needs. I am the Honorable One Nick Bull.
Go back and watch the video on YouTube.
Absolutely. Go back and watch them on YouTube. we have talked about Afternoon of Champions. I think we've just about wrapped up AEW's Double or Nothing, I think, unless you've got anything more to add, CZ.
Not anything off the top of my head. Let me ask you, Nick. We've got. I know we've got the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about, and that's the SCW show. Is there anything you want to mention about NXT's Battleground?
I'll be completely honest. Full disclosure, I have not seen Battleground yet. I know I'm letting down. I'm letting down the viewers and the listeners. I did watch GCW's show on Friday night. It was Lifestyle was the name of the show from Las Vegas. There was a triple threat match on there between Gringo Loco, Commander, and El Hijo del Vikingo. That was the big match on the show. It was pretty entertaining. Not nearly as good as the WrestleMania weekend exchanges between Commander and Vikingo. But the best match I thought on the show, if you get a chance to go back and find it, it is Jordan Oliver. He's one half of the World Tag Champs in GCW, the East-West Express. He took on Zack Sabre Jr., and who is your New Japan television champion. And young up-and-comer in Oliver, who can do just about anything athletically against the ring smarts and prowess of Zack Sabre Jr. It was a really good match, real fun, real entertaining in that environment. If you get a chance, go back and watch it. Lifestyle GCW, and it was Zack Sabre Jr. against Jordan Oliver. That was my favorite match from that show.
So I'll be on. I did watch Battleground. Couple of points that I'll make.
Absolutely, fill us in.
So they brought the Heritage Cup from NXT UK into NXT as another title. Interesting concept on the rules. I'm gonna have trouble remembering them in full, but it's a 6-round, 3-minute per round match, 2 out of 3 falls. I believe there's a 20-second count out, and there are no rope breaks. I'm almost positive about that.
So it's
Noam Dar taking on...
Kind of similar to the Ring of Honor Pure title, maybe?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
There are some similarities there.
Okay.
Noam Dar taking on Dragon Lee. Noam Dar does retain the Heritage Cup. It's contested. It's contested under British rules, which I've.
Do they have to British have tea rules... after every round?
No, but they do have a second.
It's time for tea. It's time for
Pinkies
tea after
up.
round 2. Time for tea.
Pinkies up.
Wait, Nigel McGuinness is right out the studio door here. He wants to kick my ass.
You better run then.
Oh man. Okay, I'm sorry. Talk about
the Heritage Cup. Yep. Honestly, it's an interesting concept. What the match does, it's unique. I was never really into NXT UK, so I didn't know much about that going into the match. But it's worth going back and checking out just for the concept of the match itself. Tiffany Stratton, of course, is crowned the new women's champion, which I could give 2 craps about. She faced Lyra Valkyria. Again, honestly, so NXT is at the point where there are maybe 3 or 4 people that I actually care about. And Nick, I think you said it to me. I agree. Once they are called up to the main roster, I don't have any reason to go and watch anything NXT, even the premium live events.
Yeah, but I know what you mean, and I was trying to watch NXT tonight before we jumped on here and went live, just to kind of get my bearings about what happened at Battleground. And you're right. I mean, they've got. I know why Braun Breaker and I know why Carmelo Hayes haven't been called up yet, because I don't think they have anybody else that's ready to fill their spots. That's kind of a detriment to them. But at the same time, maybe a compliment. Hey, we need you around here because we don't have other people ready yet. So hopefully in the big picture, they're not, we had heard Braun Breaker was staying down because they were turning him heel and wanted to see how that run went. But outside of a handful of people, once they kind of make the main roster, I'm going to kind of phase out NXT and just tune in on the big shows unless something changes. Anything could change in an instant here in the world of pro wrestling, as we know that. But yeah, I feel you, brother, on that one right now. It's just you got Nathan Frazier on there, handful of guys, like I said, that we like and we follow, but it just hasn't been the best lately.
So let me ask you your opinion on this. Did people like Grayson Waller get called up too soon? You say there's nobody to fill Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker's spots. Grayson Waller is a top contender.
Well, obviously they thought Grayson Waller was ready. I think they liked what he did with AJ Styles when Styles was down with that feud, and I think that progressed him and his rise up even quicker. But say you take Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes up right now. Who's your number one heel and who's your champion going to be?
Exactly.
I'll hang up and listen.
I got nothing. And the reason I said I don't want to talk bad about Grayson Waller. He is one of the people that I think is fantastic.
Oh, I think
he should have been called up. I think he definitely should have been called up. But at the same time, taking your point into consideration, who's going to fill their shoes? Who's the top face? Who's the top heel? You've got Breaker and Carmelo. That's it. They haven't really built anyone to jump into that spot. Everyone.
Not yet, but we'll see. Maybe there's something we don't know about.
Everyone that I can think of, I see them more on Wes Lee's level and being in that North American title picture.
Okay.
I really do. I don't see anybody in the NXT main title picture other than Mello and Breaker. Baby Steiner.
As of right now, yes. But, we don't know what they're going to do with Dragon Lee. I thought they'd be doing bigger things with him right now than jobbing him up to Noam Dar. But who knows? Who knows with NXT? It remains to be seen.
And here's the thing with NXT. I have a lot of faith that they are going to come up with something big, and they are going to bring some names up into that spot, because you got Shawn Michaels running the show there. He knows what he's doing.
Correct.
He's not gonna steer the ship down the wrong path, in my opinion.
No.
But I don't think he was ready for as many people to get called up as they did, in all honesty.
Well, he wasn't ready for the people to get called up, and I also mean it sounds like they're going to get rid of some people. The unavailable talent firings every year. So I guess that your standard firings are going to be coming up. So just as everybody seems to think they have their job back and they're safe, it's going to come time for some talent to get released. So we'll keep an eye on that when those things happen for sure.
Yeah, and report anything we see as it happens. Let's end, like you said, on a high note.
For sure, man. For sure.
We always love our local boys at SCW Pro. We've got a number of friends of the podcasts, just to name a few. We've got Manders. We've got JT Energy, Merrick Brave, someone who's returning to the podcast next week. Ooh-rah!
Ooh-rah!
Mr. Devil Dog. They always put on a banner show wherever they're at. This was no different. This was their first outdoor show. It's the start of the party season, as they say. Originally slated to be at a different venue, but ended up outside in on the basketball courts in Bluegrass, just outside the community center. Really nice setup, Nick. What did you think when you first walked into Battle Lines of how they had everything set up?
This is going to sound cliche and really childish and dumb, but I don't care because I'm one of the hosts of the show, so I'll talk about it. I kind of got the feeling I got when I watched WrestleMania 9 for the first time on that burnt VHS copy that my neighbor made me.
Okay.
Dude, this is cool. It's outside. I mean, it's always cool when you walk into, I don't care if it's an SCW show, I don't care if it's a WWE house show, pay-per-view, whatever. Every time you walk into a show, what's the first thing you gravitate towards? The ring. You want to see how the ring setup is. I want to see how the aisle setup is. And, hats off to SCW. And it sounds like, hats off to the Bluegrass people, because Bluegrass sounds like the community and the people of Bluegrass really want this partnership to work with SCW. There was a wedding reception going on at the community center where SCW has most of their inside shows of Bluegrass. But hey, we went outside, and I don't know, Merrick must have made a deal with the devil or something, because they probably had the most possible best weather night they could have had.
Yeah.
Good turnout. It was warm, but it wasn't hot. There was some good in-ring action. My favorite part was seeing the people of all ages. There were kids. I seen senior citizens. I really enjoyed this show more as, an outsider looking in fan. Like I walked around, sat in different places during the show, just observing different people. And I know I enjoyed the show, and I seen some kids that looking like they were having the time of their life, and adults too. So I had a blast. I don't think we need to go over match results. It was a fun show. I'm wearing my new Manders hat, by the way. Manders, we love you, brother. Thank you for hooking us up. And then we did a little pluggage of our own. Manders is featured on a IWTV, that's Internet Wrestling Television series this fall. And we were able to hop on that with him for a little bit. So props to him, and thank you for giving us a little rub, Manders, on your soon-to-be released show.
Very much so. Thank you so much, Manders. We love you. And speaking, I got to give love to a couple of other names that I mentioned here. I had both my nephews at the show this weekend, and that is rare for me, because my younger nephew he wasn't as into it before. He had some issues. We won't go into that, but he had a blast at this show. He was getting a little frustrated when he would go up and try and get a high five. He got passed over a handful of times, not by anyone being malicious. It just, you can't catch everybody.
It's the way that things happen, right? Like, I guarantee there's no wrestler that ever comes down the aisle and says, I'm not giving that kid a high five. It's just kind of the way things go. But it was cool. I did see Vito. I did see Vito. It was Vinny. I did see Vinny go over and get a fist bump from Merrick, and that was really cool. I saw that whole thing transpire. That
made his whole night. And then when JT Energy came out, he came behind us. So I looked him right in the eye, and I pointed at my nephew, and he just came up and big high five for Vinny, turned his attention to somebody on the bleachers, and then fist bumped me. Huge props, though, because there was a new SCW Pro Champion for about 5 seconds, or maybe about 2 minutes, and that was my nephew, Vincent. I took him over. We met JT Energy. He got to hold the title. He was super excited. I love another good friend of the podcast, JT Energy. Thank you so much for making a little boys' night. That was just fantastic, and they do a great job of doing all that stuff.
No, they do, and it was a fun show. They're family-friendly shows, and I'm telling you, there's some good people involved. We've had them on the show. I want to cite it right. I don't know if it was UCZ or Stripes that posted pictures from the other night.
A little bit of both, honestly.
We love taking pictures at shows, and if you're at a live show, and we're there, and if we're not there, go ahead and post your pics, and hashtag those, please. CSTC podcast or live wrestling. We want to see your live wrestling pics, regardless of the event you're at, regardless of there's 10 people there, 2,000, 20,000 people there. Take your pictures of your live events. We want to see the wrestlers you meet along the way on the indies, and we want to see the shows you're enjoying as a fan. This is the show above all else for fans one and all, whether you right, wrong, or indifferent, who you like or not. We're all wrestling fans at the core of it, and we definitely love seeing other people's pictures from their shows and their experiences.
Oh, I completely agree. I love taking pics at shows. I love seeing other people's vantage points, seeing what they love. You know me, I've been traveling all over the country the last several months with the job that I have. I love even going to shows outside of my wheelhouse, that places I've never been, meeting new people, taking pictures there. It just, the best thing about our podcast, about wrestling, it's a community.
Sure.
It's a family. We're not just there, to see a show. We are there to support our friends, our family, and to enjoy ourselves. And that's why Nick, you and I started this podcast and brought Stripes on. He'll be back with us next Sunday when we come back for our next show. Yeah, but tag us in your picks. We love to see them. If you're at shows we're at, come up, say hi. We love meeting our fan base.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. You raise good points. Thinking closing here, I'm going to try and get down. I know we had Austin Bayless on last week from Central Empire Wrestling down in Ottumwa. I'm going to try and get down there on Saturday for that show. Hopefully meet Kurt Angle. But I'm looking forward to that. That's wrestling I've never seen before. I know our friend JT Energy will be on the show. Rip Studwell will be on that show. Josh C., who's wrestled here locally in SCW, is going to be on that show. So I know Austin was on last week, and looking forward to hopefully going down to that show this weekend.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. I wish I were going to be there.
Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately, like I said, when we had Austin Bayless on, my shoot job is keeping me from being there, but that's okay. I'll live vicariously through you, Nick.
Uh-oh, I don't know if you want to do that.
Oh, well, I think we've talked about pretty much everything we can. This was a great weekend in wrestling. A lot of love to SCW. Enjoyed WWE's shows and everything there. Next week, like I said, we are welcoming back the Devil Dog, Dustin Mosley. Ooh, wow.
Ooh. And the Wizard CZ will be going to boot camp along with Chris Angle, the Devil Dog, next week. If those guys don't make it back, I will join you here and fill you in on the details. No, I'm just kidding. That would be pretty good, though. Boot camp with the Devil Dog.
I think I might die if I were in boot camp with the Devil Dog. I think he might actually.
Hey, I think we all would. The guy, he's a Marine. He's a Marine. We all would.
That's fair. Nick, I'm going to announce it right now. 2 weeks from this episode, so Sunday, June 11th, we are doing something fun and special. We are welcoming, for frequency's sakes, Doug Green onto the show, and we are having the Booger Eater's Guide to Wrestling. We've got a couple shows for him to watch and review with us. He is the last time he watched any wrestling was when Stone Cold was still in. Was during the Attitude Era, and he didn't watch that much. He's new to everything. So
yeah, Doug is on the technical side here of things on the For Frequency's Sake network. He knows little about wrestling, but is interested. So we've given him a couple assignments to watch, and we are going to be breaking down the wonderful world of booger eating, or being a pro wrestling fan, and that is in a couple weeks with Doug.
Yeah, super excited for that. We will see you back next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, with the Devil Dog. Ooh, give us another one, Nick. Ooh,
rah.
In the meantime,
that right.
I hope so too. In the meantime, be sure to like, share, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are all over the place, even on YouTube. Get us where you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, everywhere across the board. We will see you next time on Cards Subject to Change.